Hello dear friends, this is Tony Winkler once more with another video. Tonight we're going to talk about the 14 steps to healing depression. But before I go into describing each step, I would like to talk about a crisis that is brewing in America. Did you know that in 1970, 2 billion individual tablets were consumed in the United States? We're talking about pharmaceutical tablets. In the year 2007, 113 billion tablets were consumed. That is an increase, and I calculated it, of 5,550% increase in just one generation. Do you realize that the pharmaceutical industry has taken over the airwaves in the United States? More and more you see ads appearing on television that advertise a product, and then underneath it says, talk to your doctor and see if he will prescribe this product for you. This is the first generation in America where children have a shorter lifespan than their parents. What are we doing? Did you know that the only 2 countries in the world are the United States and New Zealand that are allowed to advertise pharmaceutical products on television? In Washington, D.C., there is 4 lobbyists for every member of Congress. That is 535. There is 435 congressmen and 100 senators, and the lobbyists talk to these government people in order to get people to use more and more pharmaceutical products. It's as if they are trying to addict the United States to more and more pharmaceutical products. I've been told that there was a man who went to see his doctor. He says, "Doctor, I cannot sleep." "Well," says the doctor, "I will prescribe an antidepressant." Now he says there is a few side effects, but he says after a few weeks you will get used to it and everything will be fine. 3 weeks after that, the man called the physician and he says, "I just want to pull my head off. I don't know how I feel." The doctor says, "Don't you worry, go home and it'll take a few weeks and then everything will be fine." The next day, that man hung himself. Is that responsible medicine? What are we doing? We are creating a nation of addicts. Children watching these pharmaceutical products being advertised on television think that if they have a problem, all they have to do is buy a pill and health will be restored by swallowing a pill. The lady who survived the husband who had killed himself started a movement in Washington, D.C. Her husband's name was Woody, and she has a website actually that you can look at. It's entitled Woody Matters. I want you to look it up, in which you see people parading and giving their report of the relatives that they had lost by using antidepressant and psychotic medications. I find it sad that natural means are not used very often in this country. When you go to a doctor, he diagnoses you, he whips out his prescription tablet and prescribes a medication. Did you know that there is a product called Adderall, which is used by college students? It's kind of like a smart pill. It helps students to pass their exams more easily. I've been told that 7 out of 10 college students now use Adderall. And I further learned that Adderall is in the cocaine family of drugs. What are we doing? we are drugging America. And has it really resulted in increased health? I'm not so sure. America doesn't rank very high. There is many other countries that are ahead that I think use less drugs than we do. So therefore, I would like to talk about 14 methods that I have personally used and continue to use that have been very effective in healing me from depression. The first approach is nutrition. To a great extent, we are what we eat. And so I ask you the question, do you eat healthy food? Do you eat non-processed food? Do you eat whole foods? Do you eat foods that have GMOs in it? It's hard to escape all that. I try to buy organic food as much as possible. I mean, that's my wife. So food has a lot to do with our brain function and our emotional health. The second approach to healing depression, of course, is exercise. Dr. Andrew Weil, who wrote the book Spontaneous Happiness, cites studies which indicate that exercise, I believe 30 minutes a day, or at least 5 days a week, can be the equivalent in efficacy to antidepressant medication. Of course, exercise has no side effects. It's easy. You put on your running shoes, your jogging shoes, you go outside and you walk on the street, like I do. And I have found a very interesting way to do that. I have 2 dogs. They are Jack Russell Terriers, and guess what? They pull me. And if at times I have some problem with motivation, do I really have to go out and walk or jog? Those dogs are always ready to go with me, and we have a good time. The third way to combat depression is the use of water. Did you know that the human brain is composed of 85% of water? Water is very, very important. 6 to 8 glasses at a minimum. And we use water, of course, externally and internally. And we're not talking about soda. Soda is filled with sugar, and that will hardly help us when we want to overcome depression. Another method that I incorporate when I walk is deep breathing. And of course, deep breathing, when we talk about deep breathing, preferably done outdoors. Why outdoors? Well, I have read that indoor air is more polluted than outdoors air. Also, when we go outside and we are among the trees and we are among the grass, there is negative particles, negative ions that are secreted that have an uplifting quality to our mood. Walking outside is really the best form of exercise. Another way to relieve depression is listening to classical music. It has been documented scientifically. It has a soothing effect, it has a calming effect, it has an elevating effect of the mood that we want to elevate. Then I think that spiritual exercises also come into play. Prayer, for example, is a practice that most Christians use on a daily basis. And Christ extends an invitation to all who are weary and heavy laden. And he says, I will give you rest. Learn of me. Cast your cares upon me, and you will find rest. Perfect peace, delight to do his will, and bless others. Another way that I also have found to be very effective is to have an attitude of gratitude. To say thank you. Thank you for simple things. Thank you when somebody is kind to you. Thank you when somebody does a deed of kindness to you. I've been told that it boosts your mood set point the set point of happiness is raised by 25%. We become happier just by saying thank you. And a sequel to that is what I have done. I have done a gratitude visit of some people that were meaningful in my life, where I contacted them, and then I went to their home, their business office sometimes, and I read a letter to them indicating how meaningful these people were. And we both felt better for doing that. Gratitude, a great tool to increase your mood. Positive psychology. Lately I have been studying that a little bit. I need to learn a lot more, of course, but positive psychology today is a departure from the old school of psychology, where people were counseled by digging into their past, in their negative events that shape possibly still their present emotional outlook on life, and then they try to transcend that, to overcome that. Positive psychology starts from a different viewpoint. They do not dig into your past, but they try to create positive emotions in the here and now. And when positive emotions are present in our brain, the negative emotions go down. And then one point that I would like to make is to turn off the television. If we have to be careful what we eat physically, I think we also have to be careful what we watch. What are we watching on television? I work in a hospital, and I hardly ever watch television anymore, but in the patient's room that I entered in, I see a lot of shows that have to do with crime. Many shows show violence. It's been said that kids, when they reach the age of 12, they have watched 10,000 murders. What are we doing to our minds? All the negativity does have an effect. We are what we think about. I basically have turned off the television because it gives me nothing but bad news. It is very, very rare that television expounds or explains positive happenings in the world. And yet, we seem drawn to the negativity that is all around us. Then, of course, as I have mentioned in an earlier video, living a life of service seems to have an elevating effect on our mood. My wife and I, we are involved in feeding the homeless in our church. Once per week, on a Saturday evening, we feed people who are less fortunate. And it gives me a great deal of joy to do that. I also visit some people from our church. For example, I have one man that I visit regularly. He is 101 years old. He's a great man. And he has all his marbles. And we reminisce about the past. And I ask him, I said, Al, do you like it when I come to see you? Oh, he says, yes, I do. Will you please come back? Then there is, of course, the use of supplements. There is supplements that are specifically designed to help us get over our anxiety and our depression. I know a psychiatrist in California who gives people a choice. They can either have antidepressants, pharmaceutical grade, prescribed to them, or he recommends that they use supplements. And I believe he has equal success with both. Then there is also quite a few references in the Bible that have to do with depression. For example, it says here that in 3 John 2, Beloved, I wish above all things that you may prosper and be in health, even as thy soul prospereth. There is 194 times that the Bible talks about rejoicing. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Psalms 118, verse 24. Then another practice that I really enjoy is the practice of meditation. I have read quite a few books on the subject of meditation. It actually changes our brain for the better. There is a concept in psychology and in neurophysiology of neuroplasticity, meaning that with certain practices our brain changes for the better. We are less depressed, we become happier people. And I have read that Buddhists who practice meditation on a daily basis, some of them even for 12 hours a day, are happier people than people in the West. I like to meditate. I don't do it every day, but when I do it, I get a lift from it. I have a jump on the day. Life is more peaceful, it is more serene, and I see more of the beauty of life. And the way I do it actually on this recliner. You know, there's so many different ways to meditate. The main thing, of course, is to be quiet, to think about things that give you pleasure. In my meditation, I extend a blessing to my family. I extend a blessing to my workers, my fellow workers at home. And I bring my dogs on my lap, and they seem to enjoy it. And we have such a grand time, so peaceful, so serene. And then there is one more healing method for depression, that it is sunlight. I have read that sunlight increases serotonin, and serotonin, when it is in normal supply, averts depression. Well, there you have it. 14 ways to decrease and possibly even heal depression. It is sad that when you go to see a psychiatrist, the first thing he or she does, by and large, is to prescribe medication. I propose that there is a different way to do it. I propose that these approaches are very effective. Most of them are science-based. I have experienced them myself. Today, I'm a happy camper. I look forward. I see my future as bright. I have made plans to do some beautiful things that I think are worth my effort. And so I invite you to come aboard. We will do future videos where we will go into detail to describe these approaches in more detail and give you examples of how we do it. In the meantime, I want to tell you that we have a new website address, I should say. Now we call it provendepressionremedy.com. Talk to you later, and in the meantime, be happy, be good to yourself and those around you.